You're a bird, and did you refund your copy of Cyberpunk 2077? Could you not peck at the virtual seed inside the virtual holes of the people walking around the world of Cyberpunk 2077? Was there not enough whole interaction for you, Carlos? Carlos, look what you're making happen, Carlos. Discord's popping up. You should have refunded your copy of Cyberpunk, you bird with bird boobs. No, I'm not kissing you again, you weirdo. Skip it up and that up. Hey, what's up, everybody? If you're new here, make sure that you click that big, beautiful red subscribe button. And also make sure you hit the bell to get notifications of all of my newest uploads. Thanks a bunch. Carlos appreciates it because he's a wonderful bird. So Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that was released late last year, and it was a complete buggy mess on multiple platforms, especially the previous generation consoles, where at best it barely ran in the beginning. Still doesn't run necessarily great from what I've heard, but nonetheless, it was still wildly successful for a game that came out that was pretty much in the beginning anyway, completely broken. And you would think that Sony got rid of the game on the PlayStation Network. You couldn't buy it on there anymore. It was just a mess all around, and you would think that there were a ton of refunds for the game and that it would put CD Projekt Red, maybe not in financial ruin, that would be a gross exaggeration, but it would definitely put a major dent in their profits and their revenue, and it would hurt their credibility overall. Well, maybe it hurt their credibility somewhat, but even though the numbers have been corrected and they're far worse in terms of how many refunds, how many people refunded Cyberpunk 2077 than initially thought, it still barely did anything to their bottom line. This comes from VG247. I'm going to read it to you, then we will discuss. Link below in the description if you want to read the full article. CD Projekt Red revealed that by the end of 2020, Cyberpunk 2077 had sold 13.7 million copies worldwide. PC and Stadia claim the lion's share of sales at 56%. PlayStation is next with 28%, followed by Xbox at 17%. Overall, CD Projekt Red made over $563 million in revenue, $303 million net profits, across the entire business in 2020, over 4 times compared to 2019. Part of this week's report and subsequent post-earnings call was to offer more details on various parts of the business and address investor concerns over a number of issues. In the conference call, CD Projekt Red touched on refunds for Cyberpunk 2077. The developer-publisher specifically discussed the Help Me Refund campaign, saying that some 30,000 refund requests were submitted through it. This ended up costing the company $2.23 million all told. Now, pause there for a second before I read the other snippet from this. A lot of news articles and people on YouTube went with that number. Like, oh my God, only 30,000 copies of Cyberpunk 2077 were refunded. That was barely a dent in their bottom line. I can't believe so many people just accepted the game in the state it is, which initially I probably would have done that too, but I decided to wait on the sidelines and see if something else was up, and one of the very few times that I'm right, I was right. Yeah, it wasn't just 30,000 copies that were refunded. It was much more, but still in the end, it did absolutely nothing, and Cyberpunk 2077 still made a hell of a lot of money for CD Projekt Red, and the company was still very profitable as a whole. But Help Me Refund is only a small part of the cost of refunds. The company also revealed in the same report that $51.2 million, including Help Me Refund, was the real cost of refunds in 2020. CD Projekt Red said those expenses are provisions for returns and expected adjustments of licensing reports related to sales of Cyberpunk 2077 in its release window in Q4 2020. So yeah, $51.2 million is a hell of a lot more money to be lost than the $2.2 million that people were initially reporting, and way more copies than just 30,000 copies were funded of Cyberpunk 2077. But in the end, again, $563 million in revenue and $303 million in net profits. They did okay, and a lot of that was due to Cyberpunk. See, here's the problem, and I'm equally as guilty, so I'm not standing on a soapbox here, is that we complain. I perfect example, I'm guilty as charged, is with Call of Duties. Oh, I'm not going to buy Cold War. Oh, I'm not going to buy, what was it, Infinite Warfare. God, that game was bad. God, I'm not going to buy Advanced Warfare. God, I'm not going to buy Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Guess who bought every single game I just mentioned there? Not Carlos. Me. So this is why these companies, I mean, there's no solution to it. This is why these companies do what they do, because they know people are going to buy it anyway. Once you have that reputation that you make the Citizen Kane of video games, or that you make the best consoles ever, or that your graphics card is going to be the most powerful graphics card, or your controller is going to be the best controller, or your chicken is going to be the most beautiful chicken, even if it's an unfinished chicken or an unfinished game, guess what? It's still going to sell, and there's very little repercussions for these companies to face. So they're like, cha-ching, so what? We're selling a broken game. We'll just patch it as it goes along. We'll force people to show pre-canned gameplay for their reviews, which CD Projekt Red did with Cyberpunk 2077. They're like, yeah, you have to show only this footage and nothing else. And they got away with it. They lied. They released a broken product, and they still made boatloads of money because the hype outweighed the dissatisfaction the customers had. So I'm not even going to offer a solution. If you want to know the reason why the industry is in the state it's in, is because we keep buying crap, and I'm just as guilty of it. We tolerate mediocrity when we shouldn't. This is Rich of Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one. Hey, if you enjoy my content, consider becoming a Review Tech USA member. I'll have a link below in the description. I live stream now on this channel all the time, and it gives you access to cool emoticons to use as well while I live stream. Again, link below in the description. Thank you for your continued support.